Hi, everyone, and welcome back. This is Mindy Eggen, and today I'm excited to be joining in a YouTube hop celebrating the new holiday cheer release from Honeybee Stamps. We have gift certificates to give away, so be sure to leave comments down below in the YouTube descriptions, and I will also have a link to the next person in the video hop along with all of the supplies I'm using in today's card. My card today features this beautiful layering tree that is from the Farmhouse Tree Builder stamp set. It is a large stamp set. It has the two images for the tree and then another one for adding any sparkle to it. And it also has tons of images to add to your tree. So you can decorate your tree any way you want. I just fell head over heels in love with this image. I'm starting off with a piece of white cardstock and that first layer of the tree, which is the solid image. I had rubbed my hand over that image. It's a really large image, and I'm just kind of conditioning the stamp so it takes the ink better. Then I'm stamping this first layer in Lucky Clover ink from Gina Designs. Now, because it is such a large one, I didn't condition it as well as I should have, so I did stamp that first layer twice. And then I'm going to bring in the second layer of the tree. Now, I don't know if I lined this up exactly where it was supposed to, but it still looks really awesome, so I'm going with it. Now, I also kind of rubbed my hand over that too to condition that stamp, and then I'm stamping it in Christmas Pine ink. Now this image looks great as is, but I wanted to step it up a little bit. So I'm going to use the Farmhouse Tree Details Stencil. So this is almost the exact same thing except in a stencil format. So if you wanted to make one layer cards, but I wanted these little areas to add the Iridescent Glitz glitter gel. I taped the stencil up on the top with some purple tape, and I actually have a little bit of tape behind my tree to hold it in place on my glass mat. And then I just spread that iridescent gel all over the image, and I'm going to set it off on the side to dry for just a few minutes. Now I needed some additional elements for my tree, so I am stamping this basket and the star that also comes from the Farmhouse Tree Builder stamp set. And I'm stamping them 3 times because I originally had planned to do 3 trees. I had one stamped in blue and in pink, but unfortunately we are doing virtual learning in my house, and I did not have time to make 3 different cards. So I'm just sharing the one, the green, but I did have 3 others in mind. So I'm doing just a little bit of Copic coloring real quick. I have Y13 and Y19. I started with the lightest color, and then I just went around that outer edge of the star with the darker color. Now for the basket under the tree, I actually started with E37 and then blended with E35 and E33. And then after I kind of looked at it, I wanted to add a little bit more depth. So I'm going to bring in the E49, and that was just a really nice dark color to kind of really make those shadow areas stand out a little bit more, and then just blend it back out with those same colors. Then I'll take the coordinating dies, line them up over the images, hold them in place with some Easy C tape, and run them through my die cut machine. I'm going to cut out the other sets as well and just stick them in with the stamp set so I can use them again later on. Now for my background, I envisioned just this beautiful nighttime sky. So I'm starting with a piece of white cardstock that's 4¼ by 5½. You can use any kind of cardstock you want. You just want to make sure it is a super smooth cardstock. That's going to make the ink blending a lot easier for you. I'm using the brushes from Honeybee Stamps, and this first color is Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide ink. So a really nice blue, light blue, and I'm having it fade off into white at the bottom. Then I'm bringing in Blueprint Sketch, and I'm adding that on. I really like working on the glass mat when I'm ink blending because my brush just really glides onto the paper. Then I'm also going to blend that into the tumbled glass just a little bit, and I'm adding some to the very top. I am going to bring in a darker color, but I just find it's a lot easier to ink blend when you work in layers. So if I already have color down, it's just a lot easier to move this next color around. So this last color is Chipped Sapphire, all in the Distress Oxides. and I'm going to add that to the very top. Now, if you wanted a little bit more contrast, you could use a black soot as well. I'm also going to use the Follow That Star stencil from Honeybee Stamps. So I'm placing that over my ink blended panel, holding that in place with that low tack tape. And I'm going to bring in this Glitz glitter gel again. And this is the Iridescent. It has such an absolutely gorgeous shine. It doesn't overtake the card. It just kind of helps emphasize the background and really make that sparkle. So I'm going to make sure I just scrape off any excess, wipe it back into the jar, and you do want to make sure you're cleaning your stencils right away. You don't want this to dry on your stencil. So I'll give this just a couple minutes to dry. While my pieces are drying, I'm going to work on some die cutting and stamping. So I'm using the Mary stamp set and Mary honey cuts. I love having the 3 layers of the honey cut. I don't use them as often, but I love having that option. So I'm going to die cut out the word and also that shadow layer. The word I die cut out twice from white cardstock and once from holographic cardstock, which I'm totally obsessed with. So I layered the 2 white pieces together with the Honeybee Stamps Precision Glue, and I'm adding the holographic on top, just adding little dots of glue to the back of the letters. And then I usually take my tweezers and kind of squish my letters together to help line them up a little bit. And then I'm going to add this die cut word on top of my vellum piece. This is all just going to give my sentiment a little bit of dimension. Now, when I die cut the vellum, it tends to flip up a little bit on one end. So you'll see me here kind of take it and not really bend. I mean, I'm bending it, but you don't want to bend it so much that it creases. So just kind of play with that to flatten that out or run that back through your die cut machine. And that'll just help putting that letter or that word on there a lot easier. Off of the Mary stamp set, I found this perfect little sentiment that says "and bright." So my card's going to say "Merry and Bright," which just fit perfectly with my tree. So I'm using that, and I'm going to have this stamped on black cardstock. I prepped that with an anti-static powder bag, inked up the small sentiment in Versamark ink, and then I'm going to sprinkle on some white detail embossing powder. And I'm using a coffee filter to just catch all that little bit of excess. We have a ton of excess coffee filters from camping over the summer, so that's why I'm using them and I don't feel guilty. Then after I had die cut out my tree, I lined it up with some foam squares and placed that into the center of the card. I forgot my little basket was supposed to go first. So I trimmed off the top of the basket a little bit and then added the tape runner to it, and I kind of tucked that underneath there. Then I can take the star, and I'm just adding a bit of adhesive to the bottom portion of the star and adding that to the top of my tree. Now my die cut word is going to run across the front of my tree, but the 2 ends are going to hang off a little bit and my tree is popped up with dimension. So I just cut little strips of the foam square and added 1 strip to each end and then some liquid glue in the center. So that should even it out on the front of the card. Then I had trimmed my sentiment down to a thin strip. I added a little bit of a foam square on one end and liquid glue on the other. And that should be even with the rest of my sentiment and my tree. So that finishes off the card. I just adore this tree. I think is such an amazing stamp set. And topped off with that holographic cardstock just floats my boat. I just love it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to check out the rest of the video hop. I will have that link down below to the next person in the hop and all of the supplies listed in the video description. Be sure to leave comments along the way to be entered into the giveaway. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon.